Okay. What topic are we starting from? हाँ बट यशमित बोल रहा था कि he wants to start from क्या था भाई तेरा टॉपिक क्या न्यूक्लियर ना ना न्यूक्लियर नहीं नहीं अभी चल खुद को ही याद नहीं क्या पूछने आया था तूने क्या बोला था कि सर वो परसेंटेज अनसर्टेनिटी में मेरी बहुत मिस्टेक हो रही है हाँ तो वी आर स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम फर्स्ट ओनली ओके ઇફ પોસિબલ થોડા આમ આગળ બેસો ને તો મને બધાનું મોઢું દેખાય તો મને એવું સારું લાગે કે બધા જોવે છે ના 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 જેકેટ કાઢી દેવાનું ભાઈ મેં મર જાયગા ઇધર okay so see in physics when we measure things there are two components to any measurement right थोड़ा ऐसे बैठ सकते हैं ऐसा कोई मना नहीं किया किसी हाँ और बस मोड़ू देखे गुजराती आवड़े ओके गुड okay so in physics whenever we measure anything there are two components to that measurement one is the let's say magnitude and the other one is unit unit tells us that what quantity are we measuring है ना and there are 7 fundamental quantities that we know of right can you name these quantities time current length बोलते हैं distance की जगह पे temperature then amount of substance શું બોલી સામ્યા હા ના થાય હું અહીંયા સ્પીડ લખવા માંડ્યો તો amount of substance there are 7 1 2 3 4 5 light intensity कैंडला है ना फिर क्या था एंगल मास अरे मास रह गया भाई okay each of them have a separate unit seconds current ampere temperature kelvin light intensity candela length meter amount of substance mole and mass is kg है ना now there are two more additional quantities radians and steradians but वो अभी ignore करेंगे here right all of these are fundamental or base quantities right each of them so any other unit like speed it can be reduced to speed is meters per second which is nothing but length upon time so it can be reduced to these quantities in other words these quantities are the one that can be measured all the other quantities can be calculated from these quantities now because they can be measured directly they are generally kept on the x axis until unless force वाला है extension वाला है जिसमें force is on the x axis and extension is on the y axis है ना and this is why current is placed on the what axis x axis because it is a fundamental quantity right and the first question that we see will always tell us to find out the fundamental or base we call this base units है ना so just take simple energy ले लेते हैं and they give us that what is what and we have to find the base units but एक simple example बता रहा हूँ है ना energy is let's say half mv square is a formula for kinetic energy है ना half does not have any unit it's already a number mass m kg हाँ okay right kg velocity is this is nothing but your base units of energy now if you wanted to approach this mgh you'll still find it same kg meters per second square into meter you will still come to this only है ना but if you want to equate that work done is equal to force into displacement. This is nothing but energy stored. Then you'll still find it same because force is
kg per second square.
Thank you, kg meters per second square into this is length, right? So this will also give you this only, right? This also tells us, not a part of our syllabus, but this also tells us that if a lot of units, right, relate to same base units, maybe they are related. Does not happen every time, which is why I'm saying maybe, but maybe they are related in some form, right? Not important for us right now. Now what will happen whenever you measure something? There is precision of that measurement and there is accuracy of that measurement, right? From just the given values you will not be able to tell if it is accurate or not. To be able to comment that it is accurate or not, you need to know the true value, right? So what is accuracy? Accuracy is how close it is to the true value, right? And precision is what is the range of measured values, है ना? For example, I am measuring time period. I am calculating time period for a simple pendulum. So what I will do, I will take a pendulum and let it oscillate 20 times. I will then note down the time required for this 20 oscillations. I will do this 10 times, right? For each 20 oscillations, I will divide the time by 20 and I will have the time period. Let's say the time period that I have is in this range 2.4, 2.3, 2.1, 2.4, 2.3, 2, 2.4, right? How many are these? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 and 7. Okay, let's say there were 7 observations only, right? So observation, what is the average of this? Let's say the true value is 2, right? So this is an accurate observation, right? Here what will be your what do you call average? You add all of these, right, and then divide by 7. That will be your, है ना? Let's suppose that came out to be 2.2. So the lowest value is 2 and the highest value is 2.4. So this is how precise my observation is, right? Sometimes in physics, because true value cannot be given every time, they will just tell you that, your accuracy, you'll assume that this is an accurate answer. So accuracy is related to this also. You're accurate, but only to 0.2 units of your observation. This is seconds, right? Does this make sense? Now with this percentage accuracy, so percentage accuracy was 0.2 upon 2.2 into 100. How much will this be? Calculators. 9.1. So the percentage error is 9.1, right? From precision I can find out what is the percentage, which is found to be, it's okay, 9.1, right? Now in this, let's say that this is just a time period, okay? Now the strength of the density, somehow they have made an equation that the density of the string through which pendulum is hanging and time period are related like this, that length t square upon diameter of the pendulum multiplied by what can we use for, okay, let's say density is and a constant d, okay, let's say a constant d. Now you have measured the density of this string or rope as 2.1 plus or minus 0.1 kg per meter cube, right? Length is 1.5 plus or minus 0.01 meter. Time period 2.2 plus or minus 0.2 seconds, and diameter as what should be the diameter? 0.2 plus or minus 0.01 uh, centimeter, let's say. Right? If this is given, can you find out the value of D? Yes, definitely you can. Right? You just focus on these values when you are trying to find out the value of D. Okay. Then they will ask you, find out the uncertainty. What you will do, you will simply make D the subject of formula, density into diameter upon area into T square. Now once you've done this, what you will do, you will write an equation for this whole thing, that the percentage uncertainty in D is equal to uncertainty of all of these, no matter if it's in numerator or denominator. So you will write delta rho by rho into 100 plus delta d by d into 100, right, plus delta L by L into 100 plus 2 times of delta T by T into 100. Why 2 times? Because it is squared, so its error doubles. Right, so percentage error is counted twice, so it doubles, which is why we multiplied by 2. Yes.
What if it's like plus something else?
Okay, let's say it is plus a value v, which is the velocity of oscillation for our understanding. So you simply add it plus delta v by v.
So everything is added.
Everything just added. है ना? Even if it's in denominator, it's added. Only power is multiplied. So let's say if it was root v, I'll write 1 by 2 delta v by v into 100, because root is 1 by 2. If it was cube root, I will write 1 by 3. है ना? So ऐसे करेंगे. Is this understandable, guys?
It is added regardless of where it is.
Yes, it is added regardless.
So the entire thing is square rooted.
Okay, so if entire thing is square rooted like this and this is not, then this whole thing multiplied by 1 by 2, right? But you will not have that. See, generally if there is an addition over here, you will not have a whole root, right? Because you will not be able to decide how to use this, what is the power of this v. Okay, so this complicated mathematical arrangements will not happen. Okay, at least for us, I'm not saying in formulas it does not happen, at least for us it will not happen. So this is your uncertainty, that plus or minus is known as uncertainty, that uncertain value upon the actual value in 100 is known as percentage uncertainty. Percentage uncertainties are always added. If there is a power, they are multiplied with the percentage uncertainties. Okay, now let's say you wanted to find delta d by d into 100. You found out that it is 12% uncertain. How to find the value of delta d? You will find the value of delta d is equal to 12 into the actual value of d, right? You added this d into some formula and you found out the value of d. So that divided by 100. This will give you delta d, right? Now what will happen? See, we have seen that the values are up to 2 decimal places and then maximum error is 3 decimal places, right? So here when you write it like this, d plus or minus delta d, right, things to remember is both of them should have same power. I cannot write 0.01 plus or minus 1 into 10 to the power minus 4. No, this is incorrect. Why is this incorrect? I mean, not incorrect in the way of expressing it, incorrect in the way of writing this. Whenever error is written, it should have the same multiplier as the original value. So it is clearly understandable to the person that what is uncertainty in this written value, right? So I would write 0.01 plus or minus 0.0001 and whatever units there are, right? The second thing you should take care of, that here in our question there are only two significant figures. So maximum two significant figures over here and two significant figures, so 0 point something over here. राइट? यू विल, ऐसा क्वेश्चन ही नहीं मिलेगा जिसमें 3 बार 0 है. दिस इज अ वेरी सर्टेन वैल्यू. 0.0001 अपन 0.01 करोगे ना तो कितना आएगा? 1% से भी कम वैल्यू आएगा ना, 1% आएगा शायद, या 0.1% आएगा. मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 100 करना है, 1% आएगा, है ना? तो 1% इज वेरी वेरी स्मॉल वैल्यू, है ना? ऐसा आएगा. जनरली फाइनल आंसर में तो डबल डिजिट्स में अनसर्टेनिटी होगा. ठीक है, दिस मेक्स सेंस. श्योर, है ना? सो अकॉर्डिंग टू मी, अनसर्टेनिटी, ये जो बेस वैल्यूज, बेस यूनिट्स, दैट इज ओनली दिस मच. किसी को कुछ इसमें पूछना है? डू यू हैव डाउट्स इन दिस? डोंट टर्न द पेजेस राइट नाउ, मैंने टाइम दिया है तुम लोगों को. डू यू हैव डाउट्स इन दिस? ठीक है, मूविंग ऑन. सो द नेक्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द सिलेबस इज मोशन बेसिकली, है ना? मोशन में सबसे पहले क्या आएगा? टू अंडरस्टैंड मोशन वी अंडरस्टैंड बेसिक्स ऑफ मोशन. सो द डिस्टेंस ट्रैवल्ड और डिस्प्लेसमेंट, है ना? एंड देन वी हैव वेलोसिटी, we have acceleration, है ना? Once we have all of this, then we will have force and work done and energy and all of that, right? But when you start with this, right, what is common between these three quantities? कोई बोला भाई? all of these are vector quantities, right? So if they are vector quantities, they can be represented on a vector diagram. Vector diagram कैसे दिखेगा? Let's say कि a car is going in this direction for, let's say, 8 meters, and then in this direction for 6 more meters. What is the final displacement? The final displacement is, what is displacement? Displacement is the shortest distance between the start and the end point of the journey. So if you do this, you will find this is your resultant displacement, है ना? What is this? This is a vector representation. But because velocity is also a vector, acceleration is also a vector, force is also a vector, you can use vector diagram to represent all of them. Let's say for example ऐसा बोला है कि boat is going in this direction at a velocity of 8 meters per second, but water is flowing at 90 degree to it with 11 meters per second of velocity. What will be the final motion of the boat? Now there are two ways to do this. What are the two ways to do this? The first way is draw a vector diagram, है ना? So the vector diagram is something like this, and then you draw closing side. So this is the angle of the boat to the vertical. This is the direction, right? You can draw the diagram. Like I'll draw this to be 5.5 centimeter, and this will be 4 centimeter. So 1 centimeter is 2 meters per second. I'll measure this and I'll find out what is the length. You'll measure this and find out what is the angle. This we've already done in grade 9 and 10. What new did we learn here? We learned that R is equal to A square plus B square plus 2AB. यहाँ पे थीटा कितना है? यहाँ पे थीटा कितना है? This is for this, वो जो थीटा है ना, let's write it as not theta, let's write it as beta. In this formula, the angle between the two vectors, so यहाँ पे वो 90 है ना? That means that R is equal to square root of A square plus B square for this example. Plus 2, beta आपको 0, right? Cos 90 is 0, so the whole thing is 0, which does make sense because this is making up right angle triangle. So this is nothing but Pythagoras theorem, है ना? So this is how you can find. But what will you do when there are vectors? So vector quantities have direction. I think we have passed that, right? वो सबको याद है ना? Vector quantities have direction and magnitude. Scalar quantities have only जोर से बोलो यार. Okay, what will happen when the boat is going in this direction? This is the direction of your stream, let's say 8 meters per second. Now what will you do? Definitely you can draw, let's say the angle between them is 60, है ना. पैरेललोग्राम बना सकते हो एक, फिर से सेम, है ना. Triangle also, I'm saying you can still use the same formula, but the value of beta is now 60, है ना. You will face so many questions like this, that sometimes it will become easier to just make components out of forces, right? I will teach what are components, I will teach how to find out components when we look at forces. Okay, so we'll connect this topic of vectors, है ना, over there when we find out resolution of the components of forces, resolution of components of momentum, है ना. At that point we will see that. Coming back to this, what is displacement? Displacement is the shortest distance between 2 points, है ना. What is velocity? Velocity is rate of change of displacement. And what is acceleration? Rate of change of velocity. Now if you are already introduced with differentiation, you can also easily tell me that velocity is the slope or gradient of displacement time graph, है ना. S is not speed over here. Acceleration is slope of velocity time graph, है ना. But also velocity is area of acceleration time graph, average velocity, and the total displacement is area of velocity time graph, speed time graph, है ना. Now here a lot of time what will happen is they'll have given you different units for this graph, है ना. That is one thing they will do, and another thing is this is the graph and this is your zero. So you, let's say this is a velocity time graph and they've asked you what is the total displacement traveled by this ball. So what you do is, this is area A and B. You find area A and B successfully, but sometimes you add them. But you don't have to add them. Displacement is a vector. So if velocity is a vector, displacement also becomes negative, and this will give you your answer. है ना? When displacement is negative, right, the direction has changed. Okay, so for example, if something is going away from me and I take displacement as positive, something coming towards me, the displacement decreases and goes behind me, यहाँ से आके, तो for me displacement is negative, है ना. The same for velocity. Going away from me velocity ज़्यादा है, तो coming towards me velocity negative होगा, right? But in acceleration, when acceleration is negative, see velocity negative meaning direction of the motion has changed. But when acceleration is negative, it means that the velocity is decreasing. The direction has not changed. The motion is still in that direction. Let's take an example. ठीक है? Let's say a car is going on a road, right? And it's, let's say, at a speed of 80 kilometers per hour, and a gust of wind comes opposite to the direction of motion of the car. What will happen? The velocity of the car will decrease. What has happened? Deceleration. If I write it in the form of acceleration, it will be negative value. The motion of the car is still the same, but the velocity is decreasing, right? So negative sign of acceleration plays a different role compared to negative sign of velocity and displacement. When you see minus v and minus s, they mean something different compared to a has a negative value. It's just deceleration. This makes sense to all of you, है ना. Let us derive the equations of motion, है ना. समझ में आ रहा है सबको? Okay, so let's say कि this is your time and this is your velocity graph, right? Time on x-axis because fundamental quantity, that is a derived quantity. So time over here. Let's say I'm observing a car whose initial velocity is u goes up till when the final velocity becomes v. In this takes about time t to do this, right? Now we've understood, and from differentiation we also know this, that if I want to find acceleration, that must be the slope or gradient of this graph. So slope is rise, right? Let us draw a few dotted lines over here, right? Can I say that the slope is nothing but v minus u upon t? This is equal to a, right? So v minus u is equal to at, or v is equal to u plus at. This is the first equation of motion, right? Now what can we find next? We can find the total displacement from the area of the graph. There are two ways in finding this area. One, you can assume that this is a trapezium and find out using the area of trapezium formula. So in a trapezium, let's say this distance is v, this is u, and this distance is t, right? What is the formula of area of trapezium?
Half v plus u.
Right? And this is nothing but displacement. Do you agree? Right? Now if I wanted to write t over here, can I write it like this, that t is equal to v minus u upon a? See, why are we making all these equations is there are v Stewart equations, these are called, right? S u v a and t. There are 5 unknowns. I want to make separate equations where even if one is unknown, I can use all the other values to find the unknown. Even if two of them are unknown, I can, if I have the other three values, I can still use them, right? So in that pursuit, let's say that if I keep t is equal to v minus u upon a, right? Can I write it half v plus u into v minus u upon a? What will this become? Will this become s is equal to half v square minus u square upon a? This will be 2as is equal to v square minus, this is the second equation of motion, है ना? What is another way? Another way is you can divide this area into a triangle and a rectangle, right? When you divide it into triangle, this much, right? This much is v minus u, right? What is the area of triangle? The area of triangle is half into base into height. So half into, what is base? T. What is height? V minus u. We know that v minus u can be written as at. So I will write half at square, right? What is this? This much is u and this much is t. So ut is the area. If I add these two, ut plus half at square, this is another formula that I have, right? So these are three main equations of motion. You can use these equations of motion to find out a lot of things, right? Do you want to note anything down till here? Okay, great. Now, if we summarize this, v is equal to u plus at, s is equal to ut plus half at square, v square minus, acha, we've not got v square minus u square is equal to 2as yet. Oh, sorry. We have v square minus u square is equal to 2as, है ना? This is for a body which is undergoing one dimensional motion, right? What is one dimensional motion? For example, यहाँ पे जो wall है ना? This is the wall and this is the floor, right? If I slide a ball touching these two endpoints, what will happen? These two surfaces, what will happen? The ball's only length will change. It will only cover a distance. It will not cover any width. It will not cover any height, right? Compare this to any real life scenario. What will happen? I'm throwing a ball in cricket, I'm throwing a ball in basketball, I'm throwing a ball in whatever sport you think of, right? In that case, The ball does not only travel distance, it also travels height. And if it swings, it also travels some width, right? So we should be able to understand two-dimensional motion. Makes sense, right? In 9/10 we have understood one-dimensional motion. Now it's our time to understand two-dimensional motion, and when the time is right, you will also see three-dimensional motion. Makes sense? Now, before we go into that, just remember that if this is one-dimensional in respect to the height above the earth, if, if this object is thrown up or if it is falling down from the surface of earth, these equations change a little bit, because in that case g is equal to 9.81 meters per second square. It's a fixed known value. When any object is thrown up, gravity works against that object. When it is thrown down or when it is let go, gravity works for that object, right? So these equations, when it's going up, right, how will this equation change? That v is equal to u minus gt, right? Because I have already considered its direction, that it's going up, and I've written minus gt. The value of g for you remains 9.8, right? If you want to make this easy, then if it's going down, v is equal to u plus gt. Even if it's going up, you can use v is equal to u plus gt, but because it is going up, gravity is working against it, you'll have to write minus 9.81. It will yield the same result. Either you change the sign first and then use the values as it is, or you use the sign positive and then change the value, right? Whatever fits your logic. H, because distance is now height, ut minus half gt square, and v square minus u square is equal to minus 2gh, right? And h is equal to ut plus half gt square. I think these equations, this right hand one equations are obviously, I mean obvious, है ना? ये वही है. Wherever you have distance, you will write height. Wherever you have acceleration, you will write g. And supposing the values of how it's moving, you can write down the negative values or positive values as per your requirement. है ना? Make sense, right? मैं पानी लेके आऊँ सिर्फ, मेरे को पानी पीना है. એટલે ગૌતમ મને બી પાણી ભરી મજા આવશે. મારી બોટલ ક્યાં પડી છે એ બી નથી દેખાતી. क्या કેમ પૈસા વૈસા લઈ લેજે. ભરેલી છે, ભરેલી છે, ભરેલી છે. સારું ચલો. Okay, what if a ball is thrown upwards at an angle of theta to the horizontal, right, and it travels a distance like this? Then what will you do? Now you cannot even use triangle method, right? Because ऐसा नहीं है कि दो forces और दो velocities combine हो रहे हैं. There is a single velocity and we are looking at what is the motion over here, right? Two prominent questions. What is the maximum height, right? And what is the distance traveled? To understand this properly, we must first understand something known as projectile motion. है ना? Is everyone able to understand? हम थोड़ा fast जा रहे हैं ऐसा लग रहा हो तो बोलना, है ना? भाई 2 दिन में थोड़ी खत्म करना है, अपने पास है टाइम। भाई आई बिलीव तो फिर तुम लोग अब मिस्टेक नहीं करोगे ना इसमें, वो नहीं हो पा रहा है यार, वो भी होना चाहिए ना साथ में। एनीवे, होपफुली द लास्ट टाइम दैट आई डू दिस, क्योंकि रिकॉर्ड कर रहे हैं तो नेक्स्ट टाइम तुम लोग देख सकते हैं, राइट? ठीक है। सो यू विल बी आस्क्ड दैट व्हाट शुड बी द हाइट एंड व्हाट शुड बी द डिस्टेंस ट्रैवल्ड, है ना? हाइट ढूंढने के लिए और डिस्टेंस ट्रैवल्ड करने के लिए विल नीड टू, इफ दिस इज योर वेलोसिटी v, we need to divide this velocity into two parts, which is one horizontal and one vertical. Why do we do this and how do we do this are the two things that we need to understand properly. Why do we do this? Because let's imagine ये room है, ठीक है? I'm walking from this corner to that corner, है ना? I've explained this example and now I feel कि जिसको याद है उसको याद है. Now if I'm walking from this corner to that corner at a velocity of 5 meters per second, है ना? Will my shadow on this wall and this wall also move at 5 meters per second? No, it will not, right? Because let's say ये 5 meter है, ये 3 meter है. If it takes 1 second for me to reach from this corner to this corner, my shadow also reaches from this corner to this corner in just 1 second, which means the velocity of my shadow on this wall is 3 meters per second, and on this wall will be again something else, right? So this is how we can find, this is why we find out resolution of vectors. सबसे पहला, in the next logic, especially for velocity, what you should remember is that gravitation only acts vertically. Basically, a ball thrown horizontally and a ball which is just left like this, if they start from the same height and at the same time, they will reach the ground at the same time, because only gravity is pulling both the objects downwards. What is the value of g? 9.81. Does not depend on mass, does not depend on size, it only is constant, 9.81. So both of these can be treated separately. So what should be your vertical component and what should be your horizontal component? This is what we are going to talk about. Let's say this is your angle theta, right? What should be the projection of this angle theta? Here, right? And what should be the height of that over here, है ना? Shadow वाला example ही use कर सकते हो, right? You can simply use trigonometry. This is hypotenuse, this is base. So adjacent upon hypotenuse is cos theta. So your adjacent is equal to hypotenuse cos theta, and your base or opposite is hypotenuse sin theta, है ना? But you may not want to remember this triangle every time. So what you will say कि जहां से भी ये एंगल थीटा बन रहा है, right, in that direction you will have cos theta of the component, and in the other direction you will have sin theta of the component. This can work with forces, this can work with acceleration, this can work with any vector you come across. This is always true, right? Makes sense? Now horizontally, if there is no air resistance, right, what should be the range, what should be the distance traveled? Distance is equal to speed multiplied by time, right? So what is your speed? Your speed is v cos theta, p cos theta multiplied by time t. Make sense? This will simply give you how much distance does it travel, right? But to find out that how high does it go, can I say that at this point, right, it will have horizontal velocity because there is no deceleration or acceleration. Horizontal velocity at this point will also be v cos theta. Horizontal velocity at this point also will be, not this point, I mean end point also will be v cos theta. है ना? Now here at this height the vertical velocity is 0. We know that the value of g for this is minus 9.81 meters per second square. Can I say v square minus u square is equal to 2gh? From this equation I can find out the maximum height that this object will reach. So what I will write? I will write v square sine square theta minus what is u? U is 0 is equal to 2gh. So v is 0 minus v square sine square theta upon 2 into 9.81, but this is also negative, so these two get cancelled, which is your height. है ना? ना समझ पड़ी? At maximum height the value of u, so value of v will be 0, so I will write 0 square minus v sine theta whole square is equal to 2 into 9.81, but because 9.81 is negative, into h. From here, making h the subject of formula, I can find out h is equal to v square sine square theta upon 2 into 9.81. Negative gets cancelled, this negative and this negative get cancelled, right? Now I can also use a similar logic to find out what is the maximum height, right? Sorry, what is the time taken? V is equal to u minus v is equal to u plus g t, right? Your u is v sine theta, your g is 9.81 t, right, is equal to 0 because the final velocity is going to be 0. So the time taken is equal to v sine theta upon 9.81, because this v sine theta goes on this side, becomes negative. Again the negative signs cancel out. Now do you think this time is important? It is, because this is half flight time, and it has reached over here and without any external forces, and it is going to take equal amount of time to reach over the next point, and so should I write this is nothing but, so if this is t, then I'll have to multiply a 2 over here. In other words, can I say that the distance traveled will be equal to v sine theta into v cos theta into 2 upon 9.81, right? So if you think about it in this question, right, you only need to know the theta and you only need to know the value of g, and you will be able to find out how far does it go, how much time does it take, how high does it go. Okay, so out of those 5 things SUVAT, you can use just the velocity and the angle and find out a lot of other things, right? You can use this because 9.81 is a constant number, it's given to us, otherwise this would have been difficult. Makes sense, right? Now if this is clear, and I believe this is what theoretically is in your syllabus, there are 500 types of questions that are in your syllabus. I hope लाया कोई questions, है ना? I would prefer if we can do motion के questions. कौन से? वो अभी नहीं होगा भाई, वो 11 to 1 बोला है मैंने. तो तुम लोग दूसरा टाइम पूछ के आओ तो सही. तुम लोग ऐसे बैठे हो कि ये डाउट सेशन में मैं पेपर के डाउट्स कराऊं, मैं तो कैसे होगा भाई. डोंट फाइंड डाउट्स राइट नाउ, एज भाई मैंने पहले बोला था, थोड़ा सा प्रिपेयर हो क्या. इफ मेरी तो एग्जाम भी नहीं है. हाँ लाओ. कौन से पेपर में से?
2023
लाओ। नहीं, वो तो मैंने ही बोला था ना, ये तो मैंने ही करवाया ना 23 FM तो, आई थिंक सो। लास्ट टेस्ट क्या था?
मैंने बोला 23 है।
लास्ट टेस्ट
अच्छा 23 24 सब कुछ कर सकते हो ना, लाओ। व्हाट क्वेश्चन? मोशन का होना चाहिए बस।
नहीं मोशन करेंगे।
भाई आई विल अगेन से दिस, मैं समझा के चले जाऊंगा, ये 50 बार हो जाएगा फिर भी यू विल स्टे हियर विदाउट क्वेश्चंस, एंड दैट इज योर जॉब। आई नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि तुम लोग भी पढ़ने आए हो, बैठने नहीं आए हो।
वही क्वेश्चन था सर।
कौन सा?
कैलकुलेशन कैसे करते हो अनसर्टेनिटीज का? क्योंकि मुझे कंफ्यूज होता है कि डिविजन होगा तो माइनस कर
नहीं करना होता है।
हाँ बस वही क्वेश्चन था।
Whenever, see, the more the iterations you have of calculation, the more uncertain it gets.
ओके तो हर बार
हाँ. And also यहाँ पे हम significant units का फिर से याद कर सकते हैं that the number of significant units in your answer should be less than or equal to the number of significant figures of the values in question.
ओके
Otherwise, you are saying that it is more accurate than your observation. Only observation can be most accurate. Measurements and observations, calculations are always less accurate. ठीक है? This makes sense. By 1 hour complete नहीं हुआ? Are you sure this is it? Doubts नहीं है ना किसी को? चलो फिर